Many towns and villages have their own unique stories, and the one here in Richmond, North Yorkshire is a simple but quite dark story that still intrigues the visitors and mystifies the locals. I'm Jason Crowe, and let's investigate. Around the 18th century, soldiers around Richmond Castle stumbled upon a hole in the ground. The hole turned out to be a tunnel. As the hole was narrow, the smallest boy of the group was forced to go down. The idea was that he would go through the tunnel and bang his drum so the soldiers above the ground could follow his path. But all of a sudden the drumming stopped and the boy was never to be seen again. This stone here, halfway between Richmond Marketplace and Easby Abbey, marks the point where the drumming ceased. Even today, parts of the story are confused. Rhoda Fraser, the local ghost walk organiser, believes that the tunnel starts from the obelisk in the centre of the marketplace, whereas former mayor Barry Proctor believes otherwise.
So it definitely went from the castle. The castle was an escape route for the, the people living at Easby Abbey. So it would have been an escape route for them to get back to the castle if the castle was invaded by the Scots, which was what it was built for. There was no way would it have been in the obelisk is full of water. The obelisk is a well which supplied various other parts of the town in medieval times.
So how can we prove that the drummer boy really existed if a simple fact like where he started his walk is still disputed? Sean Connolly is a photographer and blogger who lives local to Richmond. He and his brother were out walking one day when suddenly they both heard a strange noise.
Basically, we hadn't intended to do that particular walk as part of a route. We didn't intend to go just to the monument, but we knew about it because we have a keen interest in sort of ghosts and that kind of thing. So what we did basically was we were walking past it going to Easby Abbey, which is where the supposedly drum boy was heading. And as we walked there, and as we approached and there's now the little statue, we actually heard the noise and we heard it drumming as we got closer. It got a bit louder next to it, and even though the river was quite loud, we could still definitively hear it. And as soon as we got to the statue, it almost stopped instantly. As soon as we got to it, we walked past and went to Easby Abbey, and then we sort of discussed it on the way, so I looked at each other and thought, well, did you hear that? I said, yeah, it sounded, and we both said the same, no, yeah, it sounded like drumming. And we couldn't explain it other than that, and then we went back to look at the statue, obviously, and already knew a bit of the history about it, and it seemed really strange because it wasn't something we set out to try and find.
Sean's blog sure raises some questions as to the existence of the drummer boy, but can we really rely on what one person has heard?
I'd been telling the drummer boy's story to a crowd of people, my visitors, and one of the ladies, when I'd finished, said, oh, I can add on to that story. We bought the drummer boy cottage. And so she then told us the story of buying the cottage and knowing the story of the drummer boy. Mother was coming to stay, grandma to the children, and the children had said, oh, wait till grandma hears the story of the drummer boy. And they all laughed about it. And Mum said, let's not tell her, because grandma was actually a bit of a psychic. And so they said, we won't tell her. We'll see if she can feel anything about the cottage and, if there's any ghosts here, so to speak. Grandma came and stayed at the cottage, and when they all got around the table for breakfast the next morning, the children were very excited, and said, oh, Grandma, did you sleep all right? Oh, don't even ask, she said. I've had an awful night. She said, I don't know what it was, but she said, outside, early morning, she said, there must have been somebody out there banging about, because she said, what a racket, you'd think somebody was banging on a drum or something. The children are absolutely hooting, and the husband, who doesn't believe in any of this sort of story thing, said, I think it was the heating coming on. She said, no, you don't have the heating coming on at 2 o'clock, do you? And so, had Grandma really heard the drummer boy? We wonder, don't we?
Rhoda's story sure helps us believe that the drummer boy might not just be a legend. Can Barry Proctor, local ice cream vendor, help prove he's not a myth?
I think it could be true. I believe it's true. I've taken a big interest in the drummer boy for years and years. I decided to resurrect the stone and put it on a plinth, just really to commemorate the actual legend and to mark the spot where the drums actually were last heard. Probably the tunnel was so small, bearing in mind it was built 900 years ago, people were smaller. I think that the tunnel was so small and it probably collapsed. It was quite an old tunnel, he got trapped and there was no way of getting him out.
Whether you believe the legend or not, this is one story that has lasted for centuries and will intrigue visitors and locals alike for many more to come. I've been Jason Crowe and we'll see you next time.